What's up, gentlemen? Today we have a question from one of our friends. He's 21 years old, but he was born with a condition called spina bifida that has left him wheelchair bound. He's a very active gentleman. He engages in wheelchair basketball, he plays rugby, he kayaks, he does a tremendous amount of activities to keep himself moving, and it's a clear indication that he has a high self-esteem. He feels good about himself, although he is in a wheelchair. This is great, this is awesome, this is incredible. The only concern he's having now is there are circumstances in which he needs to assert himself aggressively. And he can't find a way to confront people because he's sitting in a wheelchair and he's several feet shorter than them. How do I go about this? Because clearly this is going to be an issue that will follow you your entire life. You understand this, and that's why you're asking this question. It's something you're going to have to deal with because this is your plight and you've got another 50, 60 years on this planet. How are you going to confront people? It reminds me of when my oldest daughter was very young, maybe 2, 3 years old. Really when children start asserting themselves. They start saying no, they start knowing what they want. They become tyrants in a way. You know, that's why they say terrible twos and stuff like that. So at 2 years old, my daughter's behaving in ways that I'm not satisfied with, and I've got to teach her something. I've got to talk to her. You know, you can't punch the little girl in your class, things like that. And not knowing any better, not raising any children at that particular point, I would stand tall, I'd look down at her, and I'd say, Isabel, you can't do that. Punching people in the face because you want their binky is not a good idea, right? And my wife at one point recognized that I wasn't getting through to her. Now, women are generally a bit more in tune with how to behave with children. They've got oxytocin, they've got different hormones that bring them more into communication. They can confront children a bit easier, especially if they're, you know, it's your own child. And my wife stopped me one day when I was speaking to Isabel, and she said, hang out, this is what you need to do. She gets down on her knee. She gets down on one knee and looks Isabel face to face and begins explaining what needs to be done, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and engaging with her at that level. Face to face. Interesting that that word confront, Latin con meaning with, front meaning face. Look up the etymology, I can't pronounce the word, of the word confront, with face. Now, if you're seated and you're looking up at people and you're looking to confront, you like to confront them, you're gonna have a difficult time because you're not with face. Your face is at his belly, and he's way up here. You're never going to connect. You're never going to make that communication potent and visceral with that individual. In the same way that me standing several feet above my daughter looking down to talk to her never really connected with her on that visceral level, on that body level. When I say visceral, I mean a feeling level. So here's my invitation to you. And I'll tell you how I came to this also. When you find yourself in a circumstance where you need to confront someone, maybe not aggressively in the way that you need to beat the shit out of them. You're in a wheelchair. It probably won't happen. You know, I'm sure you understand this. You're not looking to fight, but you need to assert yourself in certain circumstances where someone needs to understand something. You see, there's a very big difference between aggressively asserting yourself with the will to be violent and confronting someone, being with face with another individual so that they may come to understand what you're trying to portray. It's going to take quite a bit of skill and practice, but you will find that people in your environment will respect you deeply and they'll know exactly what's going on when you say these magic words, when you say these things. And here's the thing, because you're going to have to invite the other person to participate with you, you're probably going to have to wait until you're not going to be able to use this every day. You're going to have to wait until there are circumstances where you really need to use this tool. And you say to the person, without ever giving away what it is that you're feeling at that particular moment just yet, someone's wronged you. Maybe they don't even know that they've wronged you. but you like to rectify the circumstance. So you say to them, "Excuse me, sir, could you please do me a favor?" And of course you're a man in a wheelchair. He wants to do you a favor. "Sir, could you please do me a favor? Come around the counter and come over here." And then he's gonna come close to you and then just ask him, say, "Would you mind coming down so that I might speak to you?" He's not going to say no. Unless, it's one of these circumstances where, he screwed your girlfriend and now you guys are going to knuckle up, which probably won't be the case. It'll be something like, a restaurant where someone didn't understand your order. "Please, sir, may you come down? I'd like to share something with you. I need to tell you something." Okay? And when that person comes down, what you are now actually doing for the first time is being face with someone. Confront. You're with their front. Prior to this, you're looking up at them, trying to explain something, and they're never at your level. Okay? And that's one way to make this happen. What you've got to understand about communication is that it's all about an exchange of energy. Body language is the first place where someone perceives your energy. That's why they say that what you speak is not nearly as important as what you are. Well, I've said this. This is to Ralph Waldo Emerson. What you are speaks so loud I can't hear a damn thing you're saying. Right? People perceive your body language 90% more than they actually get your words. Okay? So what you do with your body is going to be very important, and how you invite them to participate with you using their body is going to be very important with for that exchange of energy. So a number of different ways that you can do this beyond simply just having the person kneel down next to you so that you can speak to them is to touch them. When you touch someone, they're immediately, for the most part, I'm not talking about hysterical people. Of course, the comment section is always filled with people who have, devil's advocate, which is great, but you got to understand, I'm coming from a perspective that perhaps we're all level-headed individuals, and if you're dealing with people that aren't moving in that way, then simply move off. You see? Okay, done. When they come down, put your hand, of course he's going to come close to you, and he might put his hand on your chair. If he does that, that is a good sign because it means he's willing to work with you. Put your hand on top of his hand. It's awkward at first. Touching is always awkward at first, but because it's stimulating, you see, what happens is we get caught up in the actual confusion of the stimulation as opposed to the stimulation itself. So people get uncomfortable. People feel, they've got uncomfortable feelings, but they don't know what to call it. That's why we say awkward. When you put your hand on them, when there's so many different circumstances through which people feel awkward. When you stare at them, when you just look at someone and breathe. It's awkward. It's very awkward. And the reason why it's awkward is because people are stimulated and they don't know what to do about that, and they're in a very resourceful place when you get them in an awkward circumstance. When you make people feel awkward, they're far more receptive because they don't have an immediate behavior. They don't have an immediate response for it. Awkwardness comes when you don't know what to do next. You're like, oh, right? So you put your hand on his and he goes, oh, and you teach him what needs to be done next. Listen to me closely, you say. And you impart your peace while looking in his eyes the entire time. Eye gazing is very important. Of course, it's confrontation. It's with face. You've got to eye gaze. You've got to look at people in their eyes when you're speaking to them, especially if you're trying to portray a potent message, something that's important to you, something that you'd like to have done. Not too long ago, I had a live coaching session. Once in a while, someone will hire me to work with them for a few hours, with whatever they're dealing with. Not too long ago was a gentleman. He was about 6'4", quite a bit taller than me. I'm about 5'9". And I needed to impart some information on him. Now, you guys who watch these videos, you have no clue how tall I am because I'm looking right at you at whatever level you've put your iPhone or your computer. But with him, I have to come across as, listen, you need to respect what I'm about to say. You need to receive what I'm about to say, but I'm looking up at him. In the circumstances the circumstance that we had, what we were doing, the exercises that we were engaging in, I couldn't ask him to come down. it wouldn't be appropriate for the circumstance, and it might not always be appropriate for you to have the person come down. So like I said, with regard to touching, you're going to create a situation where now you can impart your energy upon that person. And I remember having this conversation with the gentleman, and as you set the scene for what you're about to say, this is also, I'm dropping a lot of stuff on you guys here today. One of the most important things you got to understand is that when you are going to impart information, you've got to set the scene. You've got to create an environment for them to receive it, to become receptive, right? You've got to make them, help them yield into what you're about to share. You've got to seduce, that's another way. So he comes, and I need to seduce him into being in a receptive mood for what I'm about to say to him. And I simply do this. I put my hand on his heart, right here, right? It's about this much taller. Put my hand on his heart, and I said, you listen to me. You see? You see? Now, that person is not confronting me, but I've got my hand on a very potent area of the body, filled with all types of energy, the heart. We've got 3 centers that are filled with most of our energy for receiving and delivering. And that's the head, most obviously. That's why all you see is my fucking head when I make these videos, because that's how I'm getting you. But there's also the heart. And just getting heart to heart with someone, you know, mano y mano, face to face, heart to heart. Heart to heart. You know what a heart to heart talk is? It's not figurative, it's literal. Sometimes you literally need to get on the heart level with someone, to passion, right? To work with them on the heart level. So you put your hand on their heart if they're taller than you or even shorter than you sometimes. One of the things I do with regard to the heart level of the heart is, you know, I'm the giant in my house. I'm taller than my wife, I'm taller than my children, and if I really want to impart my feelings towards them on a heart level, my wife, I squat down so that I can hug her at the heart level. And sometimes it takes quite a bit of maneuvering. I'll have to squat down, she'll have to put her hands over me, and I have to come up underneath so that our hearts are touching. When your hearts are touching, when you're hugging someone, you're exchanging very potent energy with them. My children also, you know, people like to hug, side hug, hug down at the hip. When it's time to show my love to my child, the heart literally has to be engaged with heart. So that's it, my man. Look, this is cool. You recognize the need for your ability to confront, understand the roots of what that actually means with face, get face to face with people, but know that it's an exchange of energy that matters more than what you're actually saying. And if that means you can simply touch that person's hand, touch their heart, or lower your tone. One of the things that draws people close to you is if you slow down and lower your tone, especially if you're looking deeply in the eyes. Change the energy. If everything's hectic and crazy, you take a deep breath and you talk slow and controlled. It's one of those awkward circumstances where people are like, huh? They don't know what to do. So now they have to engage with you because your energy is so potent, powerful, and contrasting to the environments. Done.